Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to Tech Tip Tuesday. Here we are, September 3rd already. The August just like flew by. I don't know where it went, but anyway, here we are in September. My name's
I think I'm still in August. I don't know.
I feel like I'm still in August. So my name's Ken Close, engineer, Healy World member here in the United States, and I am joined by some awesome co-hosts, Jake Barron, head of operations for Americas. Hey, Jake, how you doing?
Hello, Ken. Hello, everyone.
Welcome, welcome. And we've got Henry here tonight with the in the background and the foreground here on camera
Yeah.
from customer service and our Healy onboarding guru.
That's
So
right.
welcome, Henry. Welcome.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you so much for the introduction. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tech Tip Tuesday.
Awesome. Hey, what a great crowd. I'm loving this lineup already. I mean, I'm telling you what, you guys are in for a treat. So if you guys are first timers for Tech Tip Tuesday, well, thank you for being here. Welcome. And it's going to be a great time for y'all. If you have not been here before, let me tell you how it works. This is a chat-based forum, not really formal. So you put your questions in the chat, and then myself, Jake, and Henry, we will do our best to unpack those questions, open up a little bit more content, maybe enlighten you a little bit more on how things work. We can talk about all kinds of things. We talk about things from the technology, the apps, theory, concepts, science, all kinds of stuff. So don't worry about putting the too hard of a question in there, because we'll probably find an answer. What we can't talk about is anything around diseases, disorders, treatments, those kind of things. So we do have resources, though. We can point you in the right direction for how to help get some answers to those kind of questions. So pretty much it's an open table, right, guys?
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. Exactly. Any question is valid.
All right, you guys. Well, let's get this party started. And no questions too big, no questions too small. So let's get her going. How about that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, Tara's already jumping right in here with one for us. A question from a potential customer. If you opened up the Healy, what would you see? What's exactly inside? Ooh, I
Oh,
love this.
yeah.
I
This
love
is a
this
great
question.
question. I think a lot of people expect to open it up and just see some sort of magic universe inside the information field or something like that.
Right?
Yeah,
You open it up and there's rainbows are going to come
yeah.
out and unicorns and stuff, right? Well, let me tell you a little bit about the science. In electronics, there is an interface because computers nowadays, once upon a time, decades ago, computers used to work through vacuum tubes and very high power, more analog systems. And they weren't as reliable and not as fast. And so as time started to progress and technology progressed, the discovery of silicon material as a conductor, even as a storage medium, was created. And as science started to build the very first transistor, I mean, this was like in the 70s, I believe. The first transistor was a component that was able to do logic functions. And these logic functions, the more they could do them at once, the smarter the computer got. And so what was happening was these transistors were putting more and more and more within a silicon material. And the silicon material, because things were moving so fast and such low power, another thing was discovered. Another thing was discovered that actually, as we had thought, as we had consciousness, it could have an influence on the behavior of a computer, right? Of the circuitry. And so how many of you guys out there will proclaim, I'm just no good with technology, right? Have you ever heard anybody like that? Maybe you say it, or maybe nobody here says that, but
My parents.
you probably know somebody who says, I'm
Yeah,
just no good with technology. Well, I want you guys to understand that that's a self-proclaimed prophecy that actually has an energetic field that feeds the circuitry within your computer or your technology. It doesn't matter if it's your smartphone or if it is your computer. There is an interference. And so this interference started to become a very distinct scientific study to find out, okay, if there's a consciousness influence on computers, can it be directed or vice versa? And so around the mid 80s, there was an experiment using a random noise generator circuitry, a random generator. And this random generator systems, there was two of them placed into essentially a mechanical robot that would only do two things: turn left and right and go front and back. That's it. And the random generators were just typically equally ones and zeros. Okay, let's just say like you flip a coin, right? You flip a coin and it's overall usually about a 50-50 shot. But these are electronic coin flippers, I guess you might call it. And what was done was there was the experiment was to hatch a bunch of baby chicks around this random generator robot that kind of was shaped in a cone to maybe mimic the look of I don't know, an adult chicken, but it was just a cone. These baby chicks were hatched next to it, and the chicks would kind of pair up energetically, with this robot. Then they moved the chicks away into just a field of view, but they couldn't actually get close to the robot. The original experiment before the chicks, that random robot would orbit around a parameter just all over, consuming the entire space. And they mapped it out. Once the chicks were hatched next to the robot and then removed, their consciousness was attached to the robot. And they turned the robot on again, and it only orbited in the quarter quadrant in which those chicks were. Meaning that the intention of those chicks, the consciousness of those chicks influenced the patterns of those random generators. Well, guess what's in Healy? Not the chicks, guys. There's no little chicks in there. No, there is a random generator, though. And the random generator is a circuit, a silicon circuit, using what we would call a PN junction, that consciousness actually entangles with. And so it does sway the outcome of the Healy functions. Your consciousness does so. When you're connected with the wires, there is a interface with the body. It helps sway the outcomes of what frequencies are applied. When you're using the Healy Advisor Analyse app, that's when that quantum entanglement takes place, and this internal circuitry starts to connect to you. So if you open it up, you would see a printed circuit board. You would see some components on there that you probably don't recognize, but they're very distinctly designed, right, to build electron flow and function in order to let these apps, I guess, entangle with the client, right? So kind of a long explanation, but hopefully that clears it.
Ken, that was great. Always from the engineering background, it's always great to kind of start at the beginning as far as what's in there. Yeah, like I've seen the inside of it, and I don't recognize much of it. There's a Bluetooth chip, of course, that's there. That's somewhat familiar. There's a battery. I understand that. Things like that as well, a circuit board and stuff like that. But yeah, you said it perfectly. So
I also wanted to point out, guys, that if you want to know more about these quantum noise generators, exactly what Ken was saying, you're more than welcome to visit the Healy Academy. We have a course specifically about the information field, where they explain how there has been many physicists who have been studying for decades about quantum mechanics, quantum physics, and one of the things that they mentioned there is how these quantum noise generators work, which is ultimately what's inside of the Healy, which, again, super recommended to check out the Healy Academy for that reason and for many others.
It seems like a lot of times it seems like, when we're looking at electronics and we're looking at things from a spiritual perspective, right? It's like they're separate. There's a big separation between technology and spirituality. But the truth is, actual technology is utilizing a lot of nature's concepts and understandings that we've gleaned from how things work to build electronic technology, right? This is silicon material is it's a substance that we mine from the earth. So unlike when tubes were made to make these computers and these circuits, that was metal and glass and materials that were a little bit different. But now we're able to increase our technology and our advancements, and things are just getting faster and faster in terms of technology, meaning the conscious influence is getting greater and greater. So I want you guys to realize that when you have electron flow through any conductor, a wire, you know, that you're plugging your lamp into the wall and you turn the light switch on, you have electron flow, right? This is a molecular movement of energy from molecule of copper wire to molecule to molecule to molecule. This is a dynamic movement based on the load and the energy source, and you get electron flow. Anytime you have an electron flow, you have an associated magnetic release, a magnetic field that emanates off of that flow. And so look at it this way: as your brain and the synaptic connections in your brain, when you have a thought, that's electron flow moving through circuitry. So the same concept applies here. When you have electron flow through circuitry, aka synaptic connections in your brain, you have tons and tons of those, millions at a time. It emits a magnetic field. That magnetic field can be read. It can be read by circuitry, by equipment, the ECGs, right? The systems that we're now measuring brain activity. We can measure that. Well, if you can measure it, that means it's a real phenomenon that's coming from the human body. So now we're interfacing with that. Healy's interfacing with that kind of that technology, right? Those magnetic waves. And I love this little marriage that what seems like this little tiny guy is doing with this enormous universe. All right.
Absolutely. So we're going to go back up in the questions here, but before we do that, there's one related to what we just talked about. So Ken, challenge here, not challenge for you, of course, but if you could summarize in 1 or 2 sentences what you just talked about as far as what the quantum noise generator does, what would you say?
Wow. Okay. In a small sentence, I would say that in a short paragraph, more or less, I would say that the science of quantum entanglement is now being encased within a circuit of Healy, so that energy from our thoughts, from our consciousness, has an influence on the output of the Healy, I should say, of the apps. So thought becomes things, and Healy tends to interface with that thought. It's really hard to say in a very short, simple way, but
yeah. So in the, she asked what was the name of that episode. So what Henry was referring to wasn't the name of an actual episode. It was referring to Healy Academy.
yeah.
As far as, so I'll share my screen just to show you here. So this is Healy Academy, academy.healy.world, and we're in the science section. So science, information field, and then there's a 7 video series here, which are great. If you want to go through these, start at 1 and kind of each one's varies in length, 10, 12 minutes, something like that. So maybe watch a couple per day. If they get down here to video number 4, you'll see here in this video, you're going to learn how physical noise generators can be used to communicate with the information field, and that the observer's attention has an effect on the observed object. So if you're looking specifically about physical noise generators, this is kind of the section where it starts talking about that. You'll see here video 5, physical noise generator entanglement, as well, as long as the rest of these videos too. So these are a great place to go, a great reference. That's why every training we do, got to check out Healy Academy, because there's so much great content in there.
Albert Einstein talks about the observer effect, and this is another realm in which Healy is interfacing, is because as one uses their senses to observe anything, it becomes a solid matter. right? I mean, turn away and look away from a tree. Does it exist? Well, probably, but you're not observing it. So therefore you're not really, you know, 100% positive. But this observer effect is this entanglement where we place our awareness is where we place our energy. And so Healy does exactly that. By when you put a client in as a bit of database or content on one side of the equation, and then you use the quantum entanglement, basically noise generator, with the database on the other side. So you've got a client on one side, a plethora of content on the other side, and it builds a bridge to find out what of those frequencies would most align the client. So this quantum entanglement, and this is, again, we can go back and look at a lot of that. It gets pretty sciencey, but the Nobel Prize in 2022 was awarded to quantum entanglement and that understanding, which was discovered back in the 1800s, right? Yeah, so a lot of great stuff in the Academy. I think if you watch it, it does simplify things, but here's how I recommend that you watch a video, okay? Watch these videos with the intent to be able to teach it. It changes the way the brain absorbs content. When you are looking at something, you want to be able to explain it and teach it to someone else. It's different. It's different from just simply observing. When you're trying to learn it enough to where you can explain it to someone else, now the brain turns on in a whole different level. So try that out and see how much more you absorb. Let's see. Rebecca's question, is that where we're at?
So Henry and Rebecca have been having a conversation in the chat here. I think he's put a ton of great information in there, but this is a common question. Of course, this comes up because we have programs in the resonance database, for example, in the Analyse app. There's one database essentially for everyone that has a resonance or higher as far as the programs go. So even if you don't have some of these programs in your Healy app that you can use to actually run with the cables or with the coil, you're going to see some of these things in the Analyse app, especially like for the MagHealy, for example. That's what this question was about. Is okay, I have say a MagHealy Classic, just have the Classic programs, but I can see that I can do an analysis for the Atmosphere programs or the water programs or the McMakin programs in the Analyse app. So basically, even though you can't run those with your MagHealy in the Healy app, you can vibrate those programs with your Healy in the Analyse app. It's not the same thing. It doesn't replace that at all, especially when you're talking about like things like the McMakin program, where you use your MagHealy in the Healy 2 app. You're using both of the resonance sensors. You're transmitting two frequencies at the same time. That's completely different technology versus what's happening when you're vibrating those programs with your Healy device from the Analyse app.
Yeah, we really want to separate that a bit, you guys, because understanding that just because the programs show up in your Healy Advisor Analyse app doesn't mean that you're actually engaging the magnetic transmission from the device. So in other words, the MagHealy, for instance, like as Jake was saying, you're taking the frequency content within that database and you're sending it through the quantum entanglement of the database and the client and sending that into the field. So that's why you can do it non-local, right? You don't have to be within proximity of the person. You just have to have the content of the person in order to set that intention. What I said earlier, where you place your attention is where you place your energy. So this is exactly the same phenomenon that Healy uses with the Analyse app. It places the attention of the signal on the client and then entangles the database that you've chosen, right, to signify the frequencies being transmitted. It's called vibrate within the Healy Advisor Analyse app, but it's transmitting. That's same word or same function. Okay. Great questions though, you guys. We're getting some deep ones here.
Yeah.
I do want I did want to point out that I saw that Tara said that she Googled random generator and she couldn't find anything. It's important you add the word quantum, because here's the thing, it's a quantum noise generator. And what Ken was saying is that by itself, this device, like any quantum noise generator, utilizes randomness. It's part of the process in order to create a certain frequencies to achieve a particular goal, which ultimately uses the consciousness of the user in order to create a particular result. But there is randomness involved in this process, but what you're looking for is something called quantum noise generator. That's really what Ken was talking about there.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, there's so Heart Math Institute is using a lot of random noise generator systems all over the world to take readings to find out what consciousness is doing based on events. So like, for instance, 9/11 or some other, big event, and they're being able to measure essentially how these random noise generators change their outputs based on an event. And they're the only real, so far, the evidence is pointing to that consciousness, because of the awareness of the event, right? Good or bad, whatever it is, that awareness of the event is creating a consciousness that is being picked up by these generators, these random noise generators, and they're just measuring the effects. And so it solidifies the knowledge that technology in the form of circuitry can read or be influenced by consciousness. And this has been done for a long time. It's just, and Healy does it in a very specific way. All right.
Okay.
Let's see. So, so Marty's saying that I missed the Frequencies and Friends today. With Christian Dorner was on. Yeah. That Christian Helper.
I think he meant helper. Yeah.
Yeah. Christian Helper was on. Would it be repeated on that? So, so he's asking.
Yeah, so the recording of today's Frequencies and Friends, will be probably up tomorrow at the latest, Thursday. But yeah, it'll be on our YouTube channel, and Henry put the link into the chat here as well. So
I was just wondering, he said, would it be repeated on that? So I don't know if it being the technology we're talking about, or just are you just looking for the recording?
Yeah, I think he's good. I think the whole episode should be, or whole call today should be available. So
yeah. Okay.
I think our next question's from Crystal. I'm kind of going back and forth here. But she had a question, having trouble getting the new Heal Advisor app. So I think she's referring to the new Analyse app on my iPad and extra iPhone. I can't get past the privacy policy page. I was able to finally download the app on my other iPhone after disconnecting from Wi-Fi. So I've tried uninstalling, reinstalling, turning devices off and on, turning Wi-Fi on and off, and updated both devices. So interesting. Yeah, on the iPhone that she was able to do it after disconnecting from Wi-Fi. So what would that hint at? A slow Wi-Fi connection, or VPN, or something going on with the network?
I would look at, first of all, what operating system you're running on the iPad. How old is the iPad? What operating system you need to have on there is a minimum of the iOS 11, right? So that's number one. Number two, of course, I always look at how much memory there is within the device. Do you have a whole bunch of pictures on there? Are there, what? I have a couple of old iPads that it just will not run on. It won't. So I'd be really interested to know what some of those stats are. But it is true that sometimes Wi-Fi does not have a very good bandwidth for downloading content, and it could get stuck. And that would definitely time out. And so going off Wi-Fi and using the cellular data network sometimes is faster. Just depends on your Wi-Fi, right? Especially if you're in, say, a public Wi-Fi or something like that. But I would be really interested to know some of the parameters around the iPad. If it's an older one, can you run iOS 11 or above? And if so, how much other memory is being consumed by other apps and other content? Some of those things are very important. I don't know if we have.
I think another thing that I would like to point out in regards to that, Crystal, I think it's Crystal, the one who's having the issue, is that it may be a good idea because when you log in into the Healy Advisor Analyze app, it will utilize your browser in order to fully complete the login process. So if you had issues before with when you were trying to log in, it may be getting stuck there because your browser still has the old data. My recommendation is, depending on the type of tablet you have, I guess it's did we figure out if it was an Android or it's an iPad? So yeah, in that case, what you want to do is to delete the browsing data of Safari. So go on Safari, close all windows, clear your browsing data. That will probably allow you to actually perform the login, get past that login screen.
Yep. Great tips, and Henry's helped quite a few people with Analyse app login issues over the past year. So definitely try that out as well. Okay.
And back to Tara's question about Googling the random generators, we want to make sure you're looking at the random noise generators. Just a random generator might, who knows what's going to come up with that, but a random noise generator is different, and you'll actually see some of the circuitry and technology that's out there, and you may even find some of the Heart Math Institute's work within that. So very cool stuff. Specifically, like, I don't want to get too, like I mentioned, a PN junction, a silicon or a transistor. There's two different types of materials put together, and so they use a P and an N type material, which is you can say positive and negative. It really isn't, but it's just two different materials, and you kind of have an analysis engine already right there within that circuit. It's some pretty great technology. I'll put it this way: it's actually very simple technology used in a very ingenuitive way. Extremely ingenuitive. I mean, Marcus is genius in that way. Okay. Let's see, what else do we got?
We got I think this next one from Susan. Thank you for joining us. Was there a Tech Tip Tuesday last week? Couldn't access the calendar to go to. Oh yeah, so yeah, Henry put the link to the last week's recording. Just for reference, if you ever for some reason can't access the calendar, the link for Tech Tip Tuesday doesn't change from week to week. It's the same every single week. So you can just go. You don't need to go to the calendar to click on the Tech Tip Tuesday link to actually get to the live episode. You can just go right to HealyTTT.com. I'll take you right to our meeting each week as well. But if you want to go to the calendar, that works also. But the question later on here in the post, it says so she's still getting used to frequencies, and I'm wondering, do you get any benefit doing a program that might be an hour long for a reduced time period? So this is a great question, because we get, some of the programs are short, some of the pain programs are 20 minutes, some of the other ones are longer, even longer than an hour. And you might think, well, I need to leave in 40 minutes. Can I, if I run in a program that's an hour long, am I still getting benefits? So, I would say yes, but you have to understand what's going on when you're actually running the program. So if you, again, one of the things we always like to refer people back to is the app manual. So this is, you can access this from back office downloads, from Academy downloads, or from the app itself. But this is the Healy app manual. And on page 6 in the introduction, you'll see it talks about the 3 different sections, basically, of each program. You have the real-time mode, the resonance mode, and the selection mode. So if you're going through a program, you know, maybe you say you can only do half of it. You're going to go through the real-time mode. You're going to get into the resonance mode where it's changing the frequency every 10 seconds. And that's where it's giving you that readout of the progress indicator for that individual frequency as it's going through it. But if you cut it before the end, you're never going to get to the selection mode. So while you're getting benefits of the frequencies along the way, you're not completing the whole process. So, you know, ideally you would want to go through the whole program duration, but you know, I wouldn't make it a regular occurrence or habit to only do part of the program. So what else would you guys add to?
Well, okay, so I'm a performance coach, and
Yeah.
when you're working with an athlete, you say, I ask the question, do you want proper results? And if their answer is yes, then I say, then do proper technique. You know, there's just really not a way to sidestep that. And I'm sorry, folks, but too often we are trying to sidestep things. And the body is a three-dimensional, tangible material form. And so it requires a specific length of interface. Like, for instance, if I was to say, I want you to change your macronutrients to this profile. I want you to do it for 6 weeks, and you do it for 2 weeks and go, well, I'm good. That's not true, because it takes a certain amount of time for the chemistry to shift the biology. And so same thing here, we're looking at the frequencies to shift biology. And those sections that Jake talked about, there's a section in there which is looking at yourself, your body, analyzing all the content, the frequencies of your cell structures, and then pulling very specific frequencies based on the purpose of the program. And then the length of time in which that's done. That's why there's 10 seconds for each frequency, right? And then it moves to the next and the next, and it gives an analytics of progress. So yeah, if we shortchange that, then it's not going to have the same effect. Is it going to do nothing? No, it's not going to do nothing, but it's not going to do everything.
Mhm.
So if my advice, if you're going to spend the time in some action of advancement within your body, then complete that time, right? Continue. Yeah, I wouldn't shortchange it.
Yeah.
Here's another good question here about the focus of a client. So there was Marjorie did a bioresonance scan on a friend recovering from a fall, and had 4 of the 5 results were like spot on. But here's the question. When doing an analysis, does the client focus on the ideal state of their health or on their current symptoms? Now, we know that, and in the neuroscience world, when you injure yourself, let's say you hit your finger with a hammer, right? The moment you do that, those sensors in the finger send content up your nervous system to the brain to signal awareness. And that awareness is pain, right? It's some kind of a discomfort. And so your awareness, your attention goes on that finger, right? And the longer you place your attention on there, like if we're just, you know, we're fretting and stewing and complaining and really having a reaction to that pain, it's going to last longer, right? Because we're putting our awareness on it. We're putting energy into the pain. We're really amplifying the condition. So anytime that you're doing an analysis, you should, and there's a statement in there, it says things about your greatest self right now, right? You're thinking about the greatest state of you right now, not so much your suffering, not your pain. You don't want to bring that to the forefront. We want to put in the mind of the client the desired state. I desire to be of this greatest health of whatever it is, but not so much on the condition. And then allow Healy to take all of that content, with whatever database you've chosen, and bring the alignment to you. I mean, it's interesting how you'll see that spot on, but we may be surprised at the outcomes and go, wow, I didn't think of it that way, right? The programs it shows are actually getting to the root of the cause, not so much just the smashed finger, but also all the other things it needs to for circulation, for inflammation management, right? For all of the repair module, for the skin, all that kind of stuff. So I suggest that the client always maintain an ideal state focus, not a state of suffering.
Yep, I completely agree with you, Ken. And I many examples come into my head with that. Like, I know there's stories of people who have kind of like perforated the shoe and they think that they got hurt, and then they go to the hospital and they're like, oh my God, I'm so much pain, so much pain. And then they get to the hospital, nothing happened. It went right through both toes. So it's a reminder of how powerful the mind is. So you want to take the power that your mind has to your advantage. So don't focus on the suffering, as Ken said, focus on that ideal outcome, the desired state. And you'll see that that's mentioned a lot in a lot of the videos that we say about the Healy Analyse 2 app. You always want to focus on that desired state, because ultimately what we're sending is positive information. It's the exact same thing as like you see these people who, like monks and stuff, that walk on like coal, like fire, like coal, and they use their mind to really say, there is no pain, there's no pain, there's no pain. And somehow they really manage to walk on stones that are burning, and they say, you know what, it's okay. The mind is something extremely powerful. So I encourage everybody to really try to harness the power of your mind.
Think of it when we talk about epigenetics. Epigenetics is the influence on the genetic code outside the cell, right? It's epigenetics. Epi means above or outside of. Genetics, the genetic coding in which creates every single cell in your body. Epigenetics is influenced by energy. Now, when I say energy, everything is energy. So that's kind of like saying, I just want to be happy. Okay, there's a lot of stuff within being happy, but everything is energy, but there's different frequencies of energy. Okay, that's how the separation is looked at, different wavelengths of energy, and that determines its mass. The wavelength of the chair you're sitting in now has a much slower vibration than, say, the wavelength of a skin cell, right? It's a little bit faster, so it's more pliable, more malleable, more shifting, more changing. And so when we place our attention on anything, we are placing an energetic frequency, a true actual vibrational frequency, and it can be measured. And so the attention that you place on something needs to be, we need to understand clearly that attention has a frequency influence on genetic coding, on an outcome, on everything. And so if we're placing in our attention around lack or suffering or unworthiness or sorrow or whatever the plethora of lower vibrations are, then it's being written into a large portion of the genetic code. And so we build a body. And I want you guys to really, really grasp this for a moment. Just write it down and look at it and let your mind wrap around it. As Henry said, your mind is a very powerful thing. What you have to understand is the body just wants to serve you. And when I say you, it is this mind. And so if the mind is saying I'm unworthy, I'm in lack, my life is horrible, the body says, okay, I will serve you to that degree and to that level. And the body will start to decay just so that it can make sure and serve the mind of lack. So, I mean, that will overcome almost any technology, any diet, any exercise program. It will surpass anything that you try to do. So we tend to fail at our attempts when the mind is not aligned right. So keep that in mind. No pun intended.
Nice.
Again, just something else I want to point out in regards to that is that it's important to also remember there is the mind and then there's you. And a lot of people don't really grasp it. Like, what do you mean? Like, I need to control the mind? But there is such thing as controlling the mind. You are able to work on the mind because you cannot let the mind just run your life. You know what I mean? And that's really where the Healy comes into play. Can really help you just raise that vibration so that you can really follow and make all your desires, all of your goals come true.
Very important, folks. Again, I always go back to the science, because within neuroscience, it shows, studies show that you're having 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And the majority of them are not true. They're just the mind. And there's an amazing book out there by Michael Singer called Untethered Soul, where he does a very good job of defining the purpose of the mind. The mind, its number one purpose is to make sense of things, to make sense of things. How many of you guys have looked out the window and saw that it's raining, and inside there's a voice in your head that says it's raining? Come on, that's redundant. You know it's raining. You see it out there, but the mind is saying this, it's raining. Oh man, I don't like it when it's raining, and I'm going to get wet if it's raining, and all the content around it's raining. It's just trying to make sense of things so that it protects you and prepares you when you walk out there and you get wet, or whatever interface you have. You're already ready for it. It's a predictor of the future all the time, but it doesn't mean it's all true, and you don't have to follow it. Right? Okay. What else do we got? There was one.
Yeah. So I love these questions tonight. I don't know, like I just feel like the mix of questions we got coming here are amazing. But here's one from Tara. So she knows Healy is a personal frequency device, but she's always used the terms frequency and vibration interchangeably, but I know they are technically different. Can you explain how? And Henry put some information in the chat, which is super helpful. But a lot of us that are involved with Healy, we've all kind of seen or heard the quote from Tesla: if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So he didn't just say one or one, either or whatever. It was all of those, and they're all different, even though they're all connected and related. But what would you say to someone that wants to understand the technical difference between when we're saying vibration versus frequency?
So understand that, like I said, everything is energy. Everything. I mean, there's nothing in existence that's not a form of energy. Again, the only thing that separates it is its frequency. Okay, frequency is a cycle. It's a cycle that's measured in time. Okay, it has a beginning. It has an amplitude that's positive, an amplitude that's probably negative, and then back to its neutral. So any oscillation has a frequency to it. An oscillation is just, again, a cycle of like a wave on a pond. It goes up, it goes down, and if you watch a wave, if you could see it at the parallel plane, if you could break it down, look at a cross section of it, you'd see the wave go up above normal level, above grade. You'd see the wave go below grade and then come back to normal. Okay, so normal is very relative, by the way. When you're measuring a frequency or an oscillation, normal can be a vertical plane. It could be a horizontal plane. Normal is just a point of reference from the beginning and then back to that point of reference in the end of an oscillation. So when we're measuring a frequency, it is a wave. It's a wave. It has a high peak of amplitude, which maxes out. It drops back down to a low peak of amplitude, which it's minimized, and then back to zero. So that's a frequency. Okay, it's an oscillation. A vibration can be that also. It can be that. It can also be a mechanical content of movement, like a earthquake, right? So we want to understand that they are connected, but there is some differentiation between the two. A vibration can have its own frequency, right? A frequency can have a vibration. So when we're talking about frequencies, we're just simply sending signals out in the form of magnetic waves that are known to be beneficial to various processes within your body. Various processes, whether they be electrical, biological, spiritual, or emotional. We know that they all have energy forms to them, and each one of those has a various frequency range in which we can interface with. Okay, and Healy knows all that. That's all within the content, and then just does exactly that, interfaces. I want you guys to think about too, we have two types of interface: constructive interference and destructive interference. And so when we're sending a frequency of like and kind, okay, it's something that's coherent. You've heard those words, right? Like a wave on a pond. If we send a wave on a pond and we drop a pebble exactly at the right time that increases that wave on a pond, the wave gets bigger, increases in amplitude. If we do it, same thing, a wave in a pond, drop a pebble that creates another wave that's opposite, and they bombard each other, they counteract, right? They nullify. So the ones that amplify each other is called constructive interference. The ones that nullify each other are called destructive interference. So with frequencies, Healy can send frequencies into the body to increase protein synthesis and interface with muscle proteins, or decrease energy in bacteria, say, or in a fungus, or in a disorder, right? We can down regulate disorder and upregulate order, right? Makes sense? It's doing both. It's doing both. This is why sometimes you get a detox symptom within your body, because it's clearing out bad stuff. This is why we talk about on Tech Tip Tuesday a lot about regulating, not doing a whole bunch at once. When you start showing symptoms of aches and pains and stiffness and brain fog and that kind of thing, back it off a bit, because that constructive interference with detox, it's constructive interference. Think about the words here: constructive interference to increase detox, which is a shedding. The natural excretion systems in our body engage and eliminate. But if you don't have proper hydration, you're going to have symptoms. Okay. Does that make sense? I hope that made sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. There is one here that Susan's talking about, placement of electrodes, where that shows in the picture the electrodes placed on the mastoid bone, and then there's hair there, right? Not in my case, but sometimes there's hair there. So you getting conduction through hair is not great. It doesn't do well. The mastoid bone is on the skull, but that same neurological pathway goes all the way down to the brachial plexus, which is just above the shoulder blades, just down from the mastoid bone on each side of the spine. There's what's called a brachial plexus. And so you can actually lower them down and attach there and not be in the hair. So that's, it actually shows that even in the picture too. It shows it a bit lower in those diagrams. Okay. To that same point, Susan was talking about, do I get the benefits for reduced time periods? So that was part of that question we addressed earlier, but we didn't address the part about the mastoid and the stick. We're talking about the sticky pads, folks. We put the sticky pad somewhere on your body, and if there's hair there, you're not going to get the greatest conduction. There is a little hack you could try. If you really want it to be there, is you moisten those pads, and then you stick them on there, hold them for a moment as that moisture starts to settle in, because when it moisturizes the hair, you're actually creating a conductive pathway through the hair, because you're coating the hair with water, and you're like building a circuit. So, and speaking of water, there's a question here about how I can use, without the water programs, with the MagHealy, can you influence the water? And the answer is yes, by the way. MagHealy was designed specifically with the water protocol in mind. Now, and so it maximizes the efficiency of the water protocols. Can you still influence water with other ways? Yes, the coil could do so. by placing the Healy and with the coil near your water. Now, a glass, is going to get that frequency. If you don't want to drop it in the water, don't do that. But yes, you can do that. So that's a magnetic frequency coming out of the coil. I have also demonstrated in the past where we take the sticky pads and we can stick those pads onto conductive rods into the water on each side of your water glass. You can use a butter knife, you can use whatever, you can stick the pads to it, put them in the water, and you can run a microcurrent program, and it will send electron flow from paddle to paddle in the water and influencing the molecular structure of the water with the frequencies. Yes, you can do that. Okay. Where are we, guys? Did the bottom resonance analysis, my friend? Let's see.
I know Jennifer had a question. I refer her to one of the latest Beginners and Beyond that we recently had. No, yeah, Beginners and Beyond, where you guys covered the Healy Analyse to because she's wondering how long should these vibrations go for, and in comparison to running programs on the Healy 2 app. I know that's a topic that's covered in that video, but Ken, if you want to expand on that, if you wish, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, there's a great well, and we've shown that, right, Jake? We've shown that within the coach module about talking about the timeline for the vibrational frequencies. A good, let's look at it this way. Let's just look at principles. I like to create principles so we can apply them anywhere in our life. If we're looking at the solid matter of our body, a condition in which it's something with the material form of the body, then running things a little bit longer is to an advantage. If we're looking at things that, and this would be like the acute conditions, they're part of the body. The things that might be more in the emotional realm or the spiritual realm, you can run shorter because, when we're talking about changing the quantum field, that happens in an instant, speed of light. The quantum field, it's just information, and you can shift the information field just by a thought, right? Well, same thing with a Healy. It just infuses information in forms of what's called vibration, also frequency, right? And it changes in a second. That's why you see some of those milliseconds, right? Fractions of a second within those vibrational times. And then you see stuff that's like all day, right? So physical form longer, spiritual, emotional form lesser.
Yeah.
So, and again, like in that episode, there's some training around a little bit more about what that means.
Yeah, that's always a big topic because if you're talking about running Healy Gold programs, Gold Cycle programs with the Healy app, and you're looking a 60-minute program or something like that, versus a fraction of a second with the Analyse app. It's like, well, okay, but yeah, like you said, Ken, it's instant when you're talking about the information field there versus what you're doing with microcurrent and the process that you're going through when you're using the Healy app itself. But then also, let's just say, as you mentioned, for example, you're doing both in the Analyse app. You're doing a resonance analysis for the Gold Cycle programs, and then you're doing an aura analysis separately. You'll see the defaults are the same for both. Like when you go to vibrate those programs, the defaults to that 1 minute and 20 seconds for both. But then, always you want to reference that chart, which Henry put the link to the last Healy for Beginners and Beyond into the chat here, which was we spent a lot of time on that topic, and there's some great resources there.
Yeah. That we've done many things around that. If we could just if we take all these categories and just put them in big blocks, it'd be so many different things. And kind of, we say the same thing over again in different ways, but let's see here. There is another question here that Susan said that she did not receive the bracelets. I don't know if you guys already answered this. Did not receive the bracelets. Yeah.
I had answered, like I was just letting it, like maybe she didn't see my reply, but basically the bracelets will be in a different compartment kind of thing, like in a different package. So it's very important that you don't throw that away. If you did at that moment, at that point, we just recommend that you reach out to our customer care team, see what they can do for you. And again, and you have the option to either reach out to us through live chat, or you can also use the support center to reach out to us, because yes, they do come with their Healy. They're part of the same unit. It's one of the accessories that you are granted when you purchase a Healy, but they do come on a separate package. So it's important that you keep that and you don't throw it away.
Yeah, you can apply the mic, and this is around the microcurrent, folks. Understand that the microcurrent is a very tangible application of the frequencies. Microcurrent is electron flow. All right, electron flow. So just like if you plug your lamp into the wall, turn the switch on, electron flow goes through the cord up to the light bulb and lights the light bulb. So look at yourself as the light bulb. You're the load in the circuitry, right? Healy is the source of energy giving it to you. And when you connect your body with the wristbands or the sticky pads, either way, we were talking about the sticky pads earlier, it runs electron flow through your body. Now, here's one things I think that we're missing the point sometimes. I hear this a lot because we're so used to the tangible, the big, the grand scheme of things. And we're not looking at things the very tiny, the electron. And when we're talking about how long to vibrate something, a fraction of a second upgrades the entire information field, because the information field doesn't have as much tangible matter. It has no tangible matter, as a matter of fact. It's just energy fields. And so you can change, like changing the station on your radio. How long does it take you to turn the dial or push the button on your radio to change the station? Not long at all, does it? But what you're doing is you're changing an entire electron flow stream of content, information in one touch of a button or one move of a wrist. Same thing. You're doing the same thing with the body. It's just we're thinking of these bodies as these big old slow dinosaurs, right? That it needs a whole big influence to make a big change. And it really doesn't. Small influences lots of times throughout the day, or even one time through the quantum field, rains down upon this three-dimensional matter that solidifies into this new form. So and it takes a minute to get your mind around that. Why? Because we haven't been taught that way.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't been taught that way. Okay. Let's see, where are we, guys? We got a couple minutes left here. Here's one from Jennifer. I don't know if we've addressed this one. It says that what's the proper technique for the resonance programs versus Healy programs, right? Proper technique. That's a relative term, isn't it? This system is so variable, so wide range. There's a wide range of applications. Here's my technique, and the way that I work things is because when it's something to do with the body, I like to use the microcurrent. I like to use the microcurrent because the microcurrent does influence cell structures in very large ways, right? Like you're charging up this cell structure in your body. Okay. When it comes to the resonance, you're looking at the information field. And so, yes, they are both connected. But when we're looking at something that you want to impact right now, the coil with the magnetic signals and the microcurrent with the wristbands or the sticky pads are going to have a huge impact right now. I do both. I always recommend both. There's sometimes that people cannot use the current or the magnetic field because they're too sensitive. But if you're able to tolerate it, you know, take your time, use the microcurrent, use it on low energy, right? Don't turn it up all the way. And then just listen to your body. When I speak to an athlete and I'm working on increasing their performance, we give it a task and then we evaluate. We take a look at what that task just did to their performance. Did it improve it? Did it make it worse? Was their recovery protocol longer because of it? How do we adjust? So very important that you pay attention and hydrate, hydrate, hydrate.
Yeah.
Okay. Any last words, guys? Anything last we want to address?
Yeah, Ken, I saw that Rebecca actually asked, you said, if you don't mind sharing, what programs are you running on yourself right now?
From the learning page, I'm running memory right now.
I'm running regeneration from fitness right now.
Yes. So the thing is like, what are we doing in the moment? I ran like, I just got done with a very physical project,
Yeah.
a week-long physical project, and I ran regeneration every single day. I ran muscle every single day. I ran stamina every single day. Why? Because I was using this body like crazy. So when I'm here, I'm trying to be as useful as possible with the reflection of content that I understand and remember. So memory would be the biggest
Yeah.
asset right now, right? So what you're doing in the moment is really what you want to try to run. All right, guys. Hey, if you want to save the chat, there's some great content in there. There's some great links in there. Click on those three little dots that are in your chat box there. If you're on your PC or your laptop, you'll be able to save that. If you're on a smartphone or something, sorry, you won't be able to do that, but click on those three little dots. It'll show a save chat function there. And at the end of our call, you'll have that option on your screen to save this content and rehearse it later. And of course, the recording of this episode with these two amazing gentlemen will come up on the YouTube pretty soon. All right,
Okay.
guys.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for being here. It was a pleasure being with you tonight.